Meyiwa murder trial has been postponed to the 12th of June for further investigation. Zandile Khumalo was in the hot seat today, giving her perspective of the day Senzo Meyiwa got shot in 2014. Now, our reporter Moloko Moloto has been following the case and joins us now in studio of what's been a very long day and indeed a very long week, Moloto. So thank you so much for that. Can you walk us through Zandile's version of events?
Day two, indeed, of Zandile Khumalo, witness number one for the state. And she really started off by just reliving or narrating what she observed on that particular day. She did say that she saw the face of the gunman who was in the house, the intruder, the short one who was sporting the dreadlocks. And you'd recall that yesterday she pointed at accused number 2 in the dock that she said was in the house on that particular day. But importantly, today she's saying that while she has seen accused, the first man who was holding the gun to enter into the house, that man is not in the dock. He's not among those 5 people who are accused. So, in other words, that could be open to interpretation. Could it be that the gunman is yet to be arrested? We obviously will hope to hear as time goes on. But then, importantly as well, was that you would recall Mtokosi Sitwala, the witness who wrapped up his testimony last week. He indicated that he also saw the gunman who was holding the gun. And in terms of the second intruder, he says he was holding either a knife or a sharp object. Now, today, Zandile Khumalo, who was also present in the house when she was asked what was the other intruder in possession of, and she says, I did not see him holding anything. So all those 2 versions, it will depend as to which one the court takes. And of course, she explained after that, after the intruders had left, she was just so shocked to a point that she would not even be able to dial the 10111 number, that SAPS call center number, to call for the police and the ambulance. And she went out to one of her mother's friends, Mrs. Maggie Piri, and she found that she was not even aware of what was happening. Only when she explained to her about that Senzo had been shot, she became hysterical, and she was also unable to make a call. And she called the daughter who was outside. When she was told of what has happened, she was also hysterical. She couldn't make a call. Zandile has had to leave, she told us, or told the court, that she went back to her house only to find that Mr. Senzo Meyiwa was being loaded onto the car. But perhaps let's listen to her as she was still narrating the story of what happened inside the house.
Wafika kuSenzo wagijima wadlula usofa lo wafike waguqala ngamadolo.
Now, Senzo came and he ran past that sofa or the couch, and he knelt at that very spot where the line had or the light has been shown, just next to that couch.
Stand.
He knelt down, and it's between the couch and the stand, the TV stand. He knelt on his knees at that very spot.
Yes, may I proceed?
So,
And then emva kwakhe kanjalo ngisase khona bathroom kanjalo kwalandela uKelly and then kwalandela uma kwase kulandela ususpect number 1.
Now, behind him, while I was still in the bathroom, came Kelly, then my mother, and then the suspect of Clan. Yes, the first suspect, or the first intruder, the one who had dreadlocks on his head.
Yes, may I proceed?
And then uKelly wafike wamake emva kaSenzo usenze ngaphambili ngemuva uma wafike nje wamala ngasesofeni.
Now, Kelly came and stood behind Senzo. Senzo was in front, then Kelly, and then the mother behind. And my mother then came and stood at that point that has been shown by the light on that photo number 65 there.
Moloko, Zandile Khumalo there, still in giving her testimony in the ongoing Senzo Meyiwa murder trial. She also, during her time on the stand, detailed what believed to be Senzo's final moments. What did she have to say, and what was it like in the courthouse during that moment?
Yeah, I think importantly, before I get to that, is to mention that it doesn't seem to be that there was somebody who was within the house who witnessed the shooting who called either the police or the ambulance to come and assist, because the first man to get out of the house, push the intruders, the gunmen, and managed to escape was Longo Twala. And there's no evidence because those who came, Mtokozi Zitwala, when he was asked whether he knows Longo Twala called the police, he said, I don't know. And then even himself, Mtokozi Zitwala, when he was asked whether he called the police or the ambulance, because he also managed to escape, leave the house at some point, leaving the intruder behind, he also did not call the police. Zandi today tells us that she did not call the police or the ambulance. Yes, they managed to take Senzo to the hospital. And when they arrived in hospital, she told the court today that it was clear that Senzo's life really was in trouble. But he was attended to, and they stood outside. And their mother arrived with Longwe Twala because those two were not in the car they were traveling in. And the mother went into the room Senzo was being treated. And moments later, she walked out. She was crying hysterically with a medical practitioner. And then the news was broken that Senzo had died. And then Kelly asked her, Zandi, to say, let's go in, I want to see Senzo. And despite the fact that he was dead at the time, Kelly spoke to him. She says, I can't remember what she said to him. And then she took off the earrings of Senzo and the watch, the wrist watch, and then they came out. Now, she then says when they went outside, they suddenly found Sello Chiko Twala, the musician, and the father of Longwe Twala, who at the time was the boyfriend of Zandi. She doesn't know how he came there. And when they broke the news, she recounted how he reacted. He was leaning against the wall and he suddenly went down and sat down in reaction. And moments later, Mandisa, who we know to be the wife of Senzo Meyiwa, but she describes her as a partner of Senzo Meyiwa. She says, arrived with a group of people who then immediately, it appears they already knew that Senzo had died. And Zandi claims they then confronted Kelly, assaulted her, pulled her by the hair, and even insulting her, saying that she killed Senzo Meyiwa, but people obviously tried to separate them. Maybe let's listen to her, because at some point, while throughout the morning and throughout the day, she looked a bit stronger and calm. But the moment Zandi began to narrate how she started, as she saw Senzo kind of like beginning to become unconscious, she says she begged him to open his eyes. And she, as he was touching the abdominal part of his body, it was beginning to get cold. That was as they were transporting him in that BMW X6 to hospital. And that's when she became emotional. Let's listen to her.
Did you see whether the deceased was bleeding or not from the wound?
Mabona khona ubopha kodwa kokungekuningi kakhulu kokungekuningi.
Well, I did witness that the deceased was bleeding, albeit not profusely, but I did witness that the deceased was bleeding.
And then ke njengoba sasilapha ngaphakathi sasilokhu sishintshana ke ukusiza ukuthi sibeke ipressure embobeni le ayilapha.
Now, all of us who were occupying that vehicle, we were taking turns to compress on the wound. That is where, the towel was.
And then ke ukhelwa driver futhi driver egijima.
Now, Kelly was driving, and she was driving at a high speed.
And then while isamsiza kanjalo uSenzo mase sofika ngase emarobotini asebuthilong ngoba ngangimbambile ngibeka isandla futhi la ithawula lalikhona.
Now we drove up to the point in the vicinity of the Botsilong as we were driving like that, because my hand was right at that particular area where where he was bleeding, my hand was placed on that area.
Ngangiphinde futhi ngimthinte nasebusweni ngithi senzo vula amehlo senzo vula amehlo sesiyafika esibhedlela.
And I also kept on touching his face, or perhaps shaking his face and saying that, Senzo, stay alive, wake up or rather keep your eyes opened. We are just about to arrive at the hospital. Lordship, the witness is getting emotional now.